Good afternoon, and welcome to the very first Marlborough Law podcast. How exciting is this for 2024, guys?
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
We've decided to do a series of podcasts to give some little insights into some of the aspects of law that you may not have considered. So for the first one, I'm going to introduce my team who are part of Marlborough Law. So we have Alex, I'm Karen Salmon. I'm head of the family department, most important person, obviously. Head of the family department and co-director of the firm. To my right, we have Alex Atkins. He's head of our corporate department and my fellow director. Morning. And then we have Peyton. She's head of conveyancing department and helps me out in the family department.
Hello.
We also have Mike Salmon. He's our non-commercial director. He makes sure we stay in business. And we have Nancy Hancock, who is not here at the moment, and she just makes sure that we keep ourselves in line. In fact, she keeps us in line.
Yeah.
We are a local firm. We all live in the local area. In fact, both Peyton and Alex were born in Wiltshire. You can't tell from my accent, but I'm actually from Scotland, where they have a completely different law. But today we will be discussing the law of England and Wales. And first of all, let's have a little chat with Alex and Peyton about the legal trends coming up for 2024. So, Alex, what's coming up in the corporate side this next few months?
Oh, actually, imagine corporate side this year is going to be very interesting. We've got new data protection laws coming in. So just about every business, if you have a client, you're probably going to be affected by that. So everyone should really be looking into what this new data protection or the Digital Information Act is saying about how you use your client's data.
Okay.
We have a new cybersecurity focus. We've had all the various cons going on, cybersecurity problems. We'll remember the BBC got hacked, for example. So I suspect this year we're going to find a real clampdown from the IOC, Information Commissioner, on things like that, especially with the rise in AI. And I think post-COVID, we're really seeing another sort of drive towards flexible working routes. And the ACAS have just launched a draft code of practice regarding flexible working. It's coming to an end of consultancy period on the 17th of Jan, if anyone wants to look at the ACAS website. And those were main thrusts, I'd say, in the sort of corporate world.
Okay, thank you. Interesting. Interesting about the end of flexi working, though, for COVID. Because a lot of people thought that they could work at home forever, couldn't they?
Yeah.
And all this call back to the office. And I know some people in our corporate customers have actually, I'm not saying sacked people, but they have let people go because they won't come back into the office. Is that what this act is going to be covering? Not allowed to do that?
No, it's not a new act. It's more, finally, a few years after the event, ACAS are basically coming up with a code of practice about how to deal with people who put in requests for flexible working time, something quite a few businesses have been looking for quite some time. It gives you some legal certainty as to what you can say yes and no to.
Some guidelines for
precisely,
corporate. Okay,
yeah.
well, we do need that, don't
especially the larger employers who are there with masses of people who probably have never seen the office before.
Yeah.
And it's quite welcome.
What about the clients or employees who have been brought on in COVID? So they've been hired in COVID and working at home. That'll be part of their employment contract, won't it? So will the ACAS guidelines cover that? Regardless of whether they've always worked at home, they need to come into the office?
That would largely be based upon your contract.
Okay.
But again, we have to remember that the employer sets the terms here from the start, and there's reasonable room which has been given to the employee. But ultimately, you're paid to work. So with that in mind, I think the first resort is look at the contract, look at the company's policies. But the idea that you'd only ever be required to work at home, I suspect most contracts do not cover that.
Okay. What I find is, and I hope ACAS are going to cover it, is there's no different guidelines for large corporates and small SMEs. So if you're a small company, you have, say, 6 people in it, and you've got 3 people at home, and then one is off sick, or one child is on inset day or something, you have one person in the office. So do you think the guidelines are going to change that or make more marked differential between the two sizes of companies?
I would hope so. There's always a degree of proportionality regards this. The law's designed, hopefully, in employment sense, to take into account proportionality.
Okay.
If you think about things like discrimination, your ability to change your workplace to suit the person with whatever disability is always proportionate to a work environment. So it doesn't expect everyone to be a multinational corp. But by the same count, it does expect a base level from everyone. And the problem people have is working out what that base level is. Okay. And this will hopefully give some guidance to people on that.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I look forward to hearing all about that. And so, Peyton, you're head of our conveyancing and property team. What's going to be new for 2024?
So obviously last year was a bit crazy interest rates. Some people kind of held off on the buying front. So it's definitely going to see those people that didn't buy last year kind of now thinking about buying. So the three kind of main issues, AML checks, which are anti-money laundering checks, which every client will need to go through at estate agent level and obviously at kind of solicitor level. Also with we had the flooding as well. So flooding and searches are going to be on people's minds. People still kind of dealing with those issues that we had. And then the new EPC rules. So this is mainly for landlords. It's a bit back and forward at the minute with the EPC rules. They said they were going to bring it in. They haven't yet. But, with general elections looming, it might be something that either gets pushed to the back or pushed to the front. It really depends.
Mm. So I guess with the interest rates going down, we're going to be rather busy in the conveyancing department.
Yeah, I think definitely at the spring. I think spring is definitely going to bring a lot of buying and selling to the market. So yeah, we'll see that towards the end of May, I think.
But with the searches, going back to the searches, I mean, and we've had terrible flooding in the last 2-3 days, and I'm really sorry for those who've been affected, especially in our area. But a lot of people don't do the searches, do they? I mean, you get a flood risk on a search, don't you? Big red.
Yeah,
it's incredibly easy to look up your flood risk, actually, and very few people seem to do it. I mean, Peyton, I'm sure your clients, you're pretty much forced to, and I know my commercial clients, I try and make them aware of what dangers they're entering if they don't do it, and this is a really, really, not just salient now, but what we're experiencing at the moment, especially in our local area, unprecedented. It could be the beginning of the new world.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's £300-400 for the whole, that's all of the searches. So that would in flooding, any ground stability, environmental, planning, it's all included. And it's, when you're buying a property that's, £500,000 in the grand scheme of things, that 300 could really, change.
But people still don't do it.
Yeah, then people still they think it's a good idea to cut the costs. And that's why they think they can trim the fat, but that's really not. It's really vital that you get those searches done when buying a property, so that 3 or 4 years down the line, something unexpected happens.
Well, let's hope none of our conveyancing clients got flooded yesterday. Otherwise, the phone will be ringing.
No, I don't think so.
Why didn't you do the search? Oh, brilliant. And finally, the family team. Obviously, I head up the family team. So there's going to be lots coming up for 2024. I think I've mentioned before, certainly on my blogs, etc., a resolution is a family unit organisation in the UK, basically for family solicitors, and we follow a code of conduct, things that we are to do with clients, etc. And I think we'll discuss how we handle that in another podcast. And they're a brilliant organisation. They have fabulous initiatives, and they put out consultations to various solicitors. For instance, the no fault divorce. They put a questionnaire out to lots of solicitors, divorce lawyers who thought it was a good idea. Me, for one, I voted for it. I know Peyton did as well. And that's proved quite a useful tool for families who just have really fallen out of love or wanted to part ways. And we don't like to do things with acrimony, certainly not in Marlborough Law. But for 2024, so it's Resolution's 40th anniversary, and they've come up with a vision for justice. Now, don't get me started on how much the government didn't put into the family courts over the last 3 years, because we'll still be here this time tomorrow. But they are doing some good initiatives. So they are looking at expanding family courts to help with children's laws. They're bringing out some more. We've got some more judges in Swindon, haven't we? We've got two rather good but strict DJs, shall I say? It scares me. But and then we've also got, my big one is the Co-Habitation Act. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, the instance of cohabitation has gone up 6% in the last year. So couples are choosing to live together rather than get married for whatever reasons. And in the past, if you separate and you aren't married, basically there's various ways that we can look at bringing back some funds, helping with separation and financials. But when you've just been cohabitating, the law is very poor on that at this moment, what you're entitled to and what you're not entitled to. So the Co-Habitation Act, we think, will be coming into play in this year. It's had its second reading now. So I'm very excited about that from a family team.
Yep,
and we will talk about more of that in the next few podcasts, sorry. But somebody's waving at me to say we've nearly come to the end of our time. So thanks everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed the little bit of insights. And if you've got any questions for the team for the next podcast, please send them in to Marlborough Law on our website. And we'll try and answer them on the next podcast. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.